We're coming. Yes. Welcome to Satsang. It's a beautiful reminder. The world always gives us reminders. Make sure you're plugged in. You could have the best equipment, you could have everything set, but if you're not connected, doesn't matter. Nothing will happen. And it's such a beautiful lesson for life where we get all of the external accessories. We look right, we own the right things, we've got it all together, but we just forget to plug ourselves in, to connect ourselves to that divine presence, that divine energy. And then like a good quality microphone that's not plugged in, nothing works. So I always love it when the universe gives us beautiful reminders. Starting with one of the questions that has come in advance. How can we keep bouncing back from the rejection of loved ones? Rejection in general is hard. As anyone who's been on social media knows, some random person, you have no idea who they are, writes something nasty about you online, right? And it ruins people's days. For some people, it ruins a lot more than their day. Now you think, they don't even know who the person is. I've had so many conversations with people who are very upset about something that was posted about them online. You say, well, who posted it? They don't know. They just know the handle. They don't even know who the person is. And yet, their day, their week is ruined. I have so many people come who are upset about things that a colleague in the workplace has said about them, or a way that a colleague is treating them. Not even someone who's a good friend. Just another random person who happens to occupy the same office. But they say something rude about us or rude to us. And it really hurts. The reason they end up telling me is because they're still suffering from it. They're looking to overcome that suffering. And these are rejections from people we don't even know, or we only kind of know. But then you think about rejection of our loved ones, from our loved ones. And that really stings. Stings in a whole other way than rejection from random people on social media or random people in the office. Because we have this idea that our loved ones really know us. And so if they reject us, then it feels like the very core of who we are is wrong, is bad, that we've been seen to the core and rejected. The way through this is to realize that, guess what? Even your loved ones are human. They're not perfect. I mean, we're all divine at the core of who we are. But the divine never rejects anyone. So it's not the divine in them that's rejecting you. God never rejects. So the part of them that's rejecting you is the part that is very identified with their human incarnation, with their ego, with their role, with their story, with their needs. And that's usually what it's about, is we're not properly fulfilling what someone else's needs are, and so they reject. For example, common example, in Indian societies for sure, and certainly in other societies as well, you have a situation where you've got a family of professionals. And we're still a week before Diwali. It's the time to buy stock and earplugs. So, say you've got a professional family, and everybody's a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, a business person. And then one of the children, the son or the daughter, decides that even though they're doing fantastically in school, they're getting straight A's in math, in science, maybe they got admitted to a top university also, or a top graduate program also, but they decide they're not interested. Maybe they want to put on a backpack and come to India. Maybe they want to join the Peace Corps. Maybe they want to write music, or write poetry, or do any one of hundreds of other possibilities. And what you end up with all too frequently is a rejection. If not by the entire family, certainly by members of the family. The parents, the grandparents, are going to reject them for the choice they're making. Now, that's not the divine in them rejecting the son or daughter for wanting to join the Peace Corps, or wanting to join an ashram, or wanting to make music or art. It's the ego self that says, oh my God, what am I going to tell the neighbors? Oh my God, now nobody's going to be jealous of us at the next wedding when everybody's talking about what their kids are doing. And I have to say, well, mine's writing poetry, or has gone off to some other country and is doing something that they're not making any money for. So what are the neighbors going to think? And that ego aspect causes people to reject their own loved ones. I've seen it all too many times. Children are hurt, parents are hurt, parents feel rejected, like we've done everything for them. We gave them everything, we sent them to the best schools. How dare they? And it's so interesting because the sense of entitlement with which they say, how dare they, is as though somehow your duty in providing your children with the best that you have is somehow to be reciprocated by them having the profession you want them to have. That it's actually a bargain rather than selfless parenting. That it's, I'll do this for you, but then I'll do it for you for 18 years or 20 years or 25 years. But then you're going to spend the next 50 years of your life doing something that you may really not want to do just because it's what I want you to do. And so you see a lot of times family members rejecting other family members for these sorts of decisions. And if you're on the receiving end of that rejection, realize they're not rejecting your soul. They're not rejecting the beauty of you. It's just that your choices have threatened their ego. They feel hurt, and so they reject. But realize that it is the human in them, the ego in them, that is causing them to reject you. Not that there's something wrong with you. We see it in situations with homosexuality or anything other than just straight heterosexuality, where so many times, I've seen it so many times, young people don't want to get married to a member of the opposite sex because they know that they're not attracted to them. But there is family pressure, societal pressure, that says you must do this. And so in many cases they do, and then they're miserable. But in the cases where they don't, again, you sadly see this rejection. As they honor the truth of themselves, they suffer rejection from those whose ego systems are too fragile to face the neighbors and explain why their son or daughter hasn't gotten married yet. So if you're being rejected by family members, realize there's nothing wrong with you. There's also nothing wrong with them. They're just human. They're also just doing the best they can. But what it means is that some aspect of who you are is threatening an aspect of their fragility, and they're not able to accept it, which means that they're not able to accept you. But that doesn't mean that there's something actually wrong with you, or that you should feel shame. What it means is you've got a special challenge, which is you're going to need to find your self-love and your self-acceptance and your self-worth in spite of, rather than with the assistance of, your family member. Usually in a best case scenario, we have family members who tell us, you're wonderful. You can do anything. You're beautiful, you're perfect, you're divine. And that, it teaches us to love ourselves. It teaches us to value ourselves. But in the times where we don't have that, we have the added challenge of finding that self-worth and self-value and self-love independent of that loved one. Which isn't impossible, by the way, at all. It just sends us inside. Or maybe it sends us into different communities, to a sangha, a spiritual community, where we will be accepted. New loved ones who will accept us. So if you find that you're having that happen, first and most importantly, no shame. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Number 2, have compassion for your loved one who has rejected you. It hurts them just as much as it hurts you. But they don't have the inner courage, flexibility, adaptability, skill to handle the current situation. Maybe they will in the future. Pray for them. But have compassion in the meantime. And number 3, make sure that you fill yourself with people with a community, with teachings, with a spiritual practice that teaches you how to love yourself, that teaches you how to accept yourself, that teaches you how to value yourself, independent of what that loved one may be saying. Questions here? Any questions? Yes.
This is a question from the Instagram chat, and the question was about losing a child and what is the karma involved. And the question was, how can a child, they can understand how a child that's been around for a few years or something could have the karma, but how can a newborn or an unborn child have the karma? And what does that say about the karma of the family and how they're affected?
Great.
Okay.
Great, thank you. So yeah, we try to also take questions from our online community. The karma of a newborn child who dies, or child who dies in your utero, the question is, how could they have possibly accumulated any karma, the results of which would lead to their death? If they haven't done anything yet, they haven't even lived one day or 1 week, how could they possibly have done something to result in their death? Well, there's a lot of pieces here. One piece is, of course, we don't look only at this lifetime. Karma takes us back through different lifetimes. Now, we've got 3 different types of karma. Prarabdha karma, Sanchit karma, and Kriyaman karma. And I won't go into all of the philosophical differences of them, but basically what they are is karma that is long-term, as in an action you did in a past life. The fruit will be born in some future life. Think of it like a trust set up for you when you were born that you can access in your next life. It's like that. Then you've got karma that is bearing fruit in this life. Today, tomorrow, next week, last week. And then you've got immediate karma, bearing fruit right now. Typical example of that would be a bar fight, right? I hit you, you hit me back. Immediate karma. And it's over then. I hit you, you hit me, we both go home with black eyes, but our karmic stuff is done. But the rest of it comes actually from past lives as well as from this life, whether it's bearing fruit this life or not. The seeds were planted in past lives as well as this one. So we come into this birth carrying a karmic bank account. So that's one piece of this, is that newborn child or unborn child actually came with a karmic package that's in existence even before they do any action this life. But then there's another component to it, which is karma does not only work in one direction. So it's not only what you did in the past is now bearing fruit today. There's also situations in which things happen today for a purpose in the future. So for example, if you look at things in our history like the Holocaust or 9/11 or any one of innumerable moments in history where a very large number of really innocent people, through no fault of anything that they had done, certainly not in this life, suffered immeasurably at the hands of a few. We think of it not only in a, well, they had some collective karma that bear fruit at this time, but rather as their souls, their individual souls on some cosmic level, agreed to have this in this birth in order to give a lesson, give a teaching, catalyze a change in our society, in our world. And so sometimes, if you're looking for a karmic reason, almost all of the time it's from the past. But every once in a while, there's a result that comes before the cause. There's something that happens that we think is a result, but actually is the cause, and the result is only later to come. And so the measures, for example, that went into place post-World War II to ensure that these sorts of things would never happen again, the measures that went into place against terrorism, these sorts of things, and just on a collective level, the way that people came together. If you hear stories of how people came together in New York, people of every race, every religion, every color, every background, the selflessness, what people did for each other, that a week earlier they wouldn't have done. A week earlier a beggar said, "Hey, do you have a quarter?" And they walked right by like a good New Yorker. But after 9/11, they were taking these people into their homes. It cracked open the hearts of not only people in New York, but people all over the world. So when we think about karma, don't always only look back. Sometimes look forward. Well, okay, if there's no explanation in the back other than just saying, well, it must have been some past life that we don't know about, maybe look to the future. What is it catalyzing? What needed to shift in the world due to which the universe made this thing happen so that there was a domino effect on other things? And the last piece with regard to young children, whether an unborn, newborn, or even a teenager. People who die long before we would say they've reached a ripe old age. Interestingly and tragically, they almost always seem to be the ones who everyone says they were like an angel. I mean, we have so many people come from all over the world here to do the final rites of loved ones, and whenever it was a child, it's always this boy, this girl, they were an angel. They were the one who everyone loved, everyone depended on, the one who helped everyone. They almost always seem like these enlightened beings in the bodies of 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds. And the reason for that is when you look at lifetimes of karma, and when you look at the fact that ultimately the highest goal, according to the Hindu tradition, is to no longer have to come back in a body, but rather to be that soul that merges into the divine, like that drop merges into the ocean. To no longer have to do this I am separate from God drama in our bodies, but that when we drop the body, for the soul just to go back to the divine and not to have to keep coming in what we call this wheel of samsara. And with children, one of the reasons that so frequently they were these angels is because in their last life they were almost done. They were almost at that point of not having to take another body. But there was maybe some remaining karmic debt, small, minimal. It only took them a few days, a few weeks, a few years to finish that. And so they finished it and then they were done. And even though it feels like a tragedy to us who have lost them, in the scheme of things, in the big picture of things, they're done. It's a celebration, it's a blessing. They no longer had to be in the body. They could drop it and be done and just merge back into the divine. So that's the third way of understanding the very young or even unborn child's karma. And as far as the family, don't think of it as a punishment. We oversimplify things as though somehow this is a reward, this is a punishment. But that is not how it is. We receive that which is going to be most conducive to us to take the next step on our karmic journey. And maybe the grief of the loss of this child is exactly the most conducive thing for you to get closer to God. Because remember, we're not here to get everything we want. That's not the promise of human birth. That's not the goal of human birth. There's no scripture I know of in which God says, be a good person and I'll give you everything you want. Just ask. Anything you want, I'll give it to you. It's never that. It's not about that. It's about getting closer to God. And sometimes tragedy is that brings us closer to God. And so I would never, ever want that family to think that they had done something wrong and were being punished, but rather simply to say, okay, this has happened, which means that this is the most conducive way for us to take the next step to God. So let's take it. Let's take it. We're in this tragedy. Let's get closer to God. Let's let this tragedy break our hearts so that they can then be open to the divine. And that doesn't make it any easier, I know. But unfortunately, that was also never promised. So we do the very best with the situations that get presented to us, knowing that each one is an opportunity for us to walk closer to God. other questions? Yes.
Namaste. There is this wonderful analogy I've heard in which says that we constantly give the remote control of our happiness into the world's hands. So how do we learn to stay joyful regardless of external circumstances?
Great. Yeah, I love that. Don't put the remote control of your happiness in the world's hands. So, the way to stay joyful is to find a way for the joy to come from within. If my joy is 100% dependent upon watching my favorite show on TV, well then if I live in a place like India where the electricity goes on and off, there are going to be times when while my favorite show is on TV, the electricity goes off and I am miserable. If that's my only source of joy. If my only source of joy is achieving and succeeding by other people's standards, in my job, in my workplace, meaning that my boss appreciates me, or that I get some raise or a promotion, I'm never going to be able to be consistently happy because my boss is also human and may appreciate some things, may not appreciate other things. May see the value in some things, may not see the value in other things. But if I've put my source of happiness in things that are external, I've handed them the remote control. If I want to be in control, then the source of my joy must be from within. So for example, one way of getting joy is for people to appreciate me. But another way of getting joy is to appreciate other people. Now that's in my control. I have no control over whether anyone appreciates me, but I have full control over me appreciating others. And so I develop a habit of making sure to appreciate people as much as I can. And I'll tell you something interesting about that. It's a beautiful practice. It's a practice that actually some of the most amazing beings I know do. And it's something that oozes out of their happiness and spreads happiness. A dear, dear friend of mine, Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's a very, very famous, amazing, renowned scientist, author, speaker. Being in his presence is almost embarrassing because he is so full of love and appreciation that you find yourself saying, enough, like stop. It almost feels, we're not used to getting that much appreciation. And so it's a very interesting place even then to be on the receiving end of. But it's an expression of not only his own personal awakening and brilliance, but a personal choice in life to see that which is beautiful, to see that which is worth appreciating. I've seen him appreciate everyone. I mean, it's not just that he does it to me. I've been with him as he does it to everyone. There's a function that happens. End of the function, he's giving the sound guy this huge hug and just giving him the most effusive, loving praise of what what an expert, amazing sound guy he was. And yes, it's an expression of the beauty of who he is, but it's also a very conscious choice that someone that brilliant has made to live in seeing things that are worthy of appreciation. So if your joy only comes when others appreciate you, you're giving them the remote control. But if instead you can turn it around and say, I am going to commit myself to seeing things that are worthy of appreciation and to giving that appreciation to people. Not because I'm looking for them to appreciate me in return, but because actually by spreading happiness, which is how everyone feels when they get appreciated, by spreading happiness, we actually feel happier. It's a beautiful secret of life. The more happiness you give, the more happiness you feel. The more love you give, the more love you feel. So figure out ways for your source of joy to be within. You're waiting for the world to love you. You've handed them the remote control. You decide you are going to love the world. That's up to you. And have a very clear understanding of who you are. Journal. Make beautiful lists. Who are you? Aside from the divine, yes, the end of the Gyan yogic practice of who am I is essentially I'm soul, I'm spirit, I'm divinity. But I mean even you in this human incarnation, you in that body, this life, who are you? What are your gifts? What are your virtues? What makes you special? Make sure you know what those are. And then keep recognizing them in yourself. So for example, if one of your good qualities that you recognize when you introspect is, I'm pretty generous. I'm a giving and sharing type of guy. Well then, every time you share, every time you give, make sure to notice that. Not in ego, not in, oh yeah, look, I'm so great. But just in very beautiful, very valid appreciation of this psyche going through his karmic journey in his human incarnation, doing the very best that he can. And here he is, sharing with others. Isn't that beautiful? And really feel that. Again, not on an ego way, but on just a really true and humble and beautiful way of, wow, yeah, look at that. And then, of course, take that and realize that's the divine flowing through you. As you are giving and serving, essentially what you are doing is opening yourself up to the flow of the universe, because the flow of the universe is giving. Trees give oxygen, water, shade, fruit, fragrance. Rivers give water. I mean, the nature of creation, the nature of nature is to give. And so when you give, recognize, that's the divine universe flowing through me. How beautiful that I was able to open myself up to that. And when you see beauty in others that you appreciate, recognize what you're seeing in them is the soul. Their soul in a different human body, different karmic package, going through a different journey, doing the best it can. And so whether it's on a soul-to-soul level you're seeing them, which is also a very deeply powerful practice, or even on a my psyche going through its karmic journey sees your psyche going through your karmic journey. And you know what? You are doing such a great job. I saw how that guy treated you. That was really obnoxious. But you were so kind. And you were so gentle. I saw that. I see you. That's what everybody wants. We want to be seen. It's why so many of us spend so much of our day saying, listen to me. Right? How many times do we tell somebody, just listen, all right? It's why there's a selfie craze. We're all dying to be seen. Look at me. See me. Acknowledge that I exist. This is what we're all yearning for. And so if you can see another being and let them know that you have seen them, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful gift. And it'll bring you joy. Wonderful. Any other questions?
नम्र प्रणाम हर गंगे। मन को फिट कैसे रखें?
मन को
फिट कैसे
fit
रखें?
How do we take care of our mind? How do we keep our mind fit? By clearing the baggage. By clearing out the junk. We are looking for peace. We're looking for joy. We're looking for that divine experience. But there's so much chaos happening inside of us. That mind is constantly clamoring. It wants more, it wants different, it wants better, So the nature of our being is actually exactly what we want. That peace, that joy, that is our nature, our divine nature. But then we've got this mind playing its games. And so then we go out in search of peace and joy, when really it's all about just removing the nonsense. I'll show you. We'll do a fun participatory experience, and we'll take this as our last question. But so I'm raising my hand. Karen, can you just raise your hand? Okay. Can you all see Karen, see me, see Karen? So we're going to call this the center. There's also an aisle back there. So we'll call this the center. Now, those of you can put it down. Those of you on this side, on my right side, my left side, Karen's right side, you're group 1. Okay? If you're group 1, raise your hand. Great. This side is group 2. If you're group 2, raise your hand. Okay, Great. Now, group 1, your job, whenever I raise my hand on this side, your job is to chant Om. Okay? So let's just practice that. Okay? Seriously, that's all you got? Come on. We've got all of you in the back. This side, if you're group 1, we're chanting Om. Good. Group 2, your job is to do something that you're not actually going to believe I've told you to do, but I really have, which is to make as much noise, just nonsense noise, what we call ruckus, as you possibly can. And I really mean it. Shout, stamp your feet, clap your hands, whatever it is. But when my hand goes up on this side, and then of course when I bring my hand down, it means stop, is to make as much noise as you possibly can. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Great. Now, that was just to test you. Make sure everybody understood what their role was. Now, pay attention to my arms, because if my arm is up on your side, you need to be doing your thing. Om over here, ruckus over here. But if my hand comes down on your side, it means that side needs to become quiet now. Okay? Both sides. Now, group 1, the Omers. Did you start chanting Om at the beginning, or did you only start when these guys stopped making noise? Beginning, everyone. Could anyone over here hear them? Sounded like they started only when you stopped, right?
Yes. We heard that.
For sure, you were doing it from the beginning. Yes, exactly. Now, I love this demonstration because this is the state of our mind. This over here is what we're going to call our true self, our true nature. Om is the sound of the universe. We are of the universe. This Om is a symbol. I don't mean just the exact sound of Om, but it is also a symbol of that peace, that divine connection we're looking for, that calmness, that enlightened experience. And it's there. It's always there. The problem is this is also going on simultaneously. And as long as this is going on, we have no ability to access that. But the problem is what most of us do is we've got all this going on, and then we go out in search of Om. How can I find peace? Well, you've got it. You just need to quiet the ruckus. So making our minds fit is all about quieting the ruckus. The Om is there. We just have to get this to calm down. And this over here, this is our ego. This is our desires, this is competition, this is jealousy, this is stories, this is drama. And so if we can develop a practice of letting this go into a yagna ceremony, into the fire, when you perform the fire ceremony, with every handful of the, what we call ahuti, the seeds and the ghee, the herbs, offer this ruckus, offer the ego, offer the games of the mind, offer what's holding you back. Some grudge you have, some unfulfilled expectation, some competition, some jealousy, some aspect of the ego. Offer it. Offer it into the waters of Mother Ganga. Stand there, hold her water in your hands and just offer, take my ego. Take my anger. I'm done. I'm ready to be free. Just offer it. And when you meditate, those of you who have been coming to satsang for a while or watching for a while, you'll know that very, very frequently when I lead meditation, I say, on the exhalations, just let go. Let go of another story. Let go of another desire. Let go of another grudge. Let go of another aspect of that story, that false identity. Just exhale into the universe. Let it go. But as long as we are attached to this, it doesn't matter how much Om you have, you'll never hear it. I purposely, by the way, if you look, you'll see, this side has got a lot more people. It's not actually an even split. There's a lot more people over here. But I purposely did that because even when you've got more people oming, it doesn't matter. The ruckus will always drown it out. So if you really want this, you've got to be prepared to let go of your attachment to this. It's the only way. You say, man eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. The mind is the key. The key to our bondage or the key to our freedom. It's up to us. And this over here are the chains that keep us bound. Let them go, and you've got Om. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your evenings. A beautiful morning, day, afternoon to our family joining us online. And I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And so much love to you.